I was sitting at my desk, staring at a bank statement that declared I was worth more money than I could comprehend, when the doorbell rang, and my past walked straight back into my life. My name's Amelia Grant, I'm 28, and 3 weeks ago, I buried the only woman who ever truly stayed, Eleanor Whitmore, my aunt, my guardian, and the reason I'm still standing. She left me everything: her grand craftsman-style mansion on Bath Hill, her flourishing home decor empire, Whitmore and Bloom interiors, and a fortune that didn't just change my life, it rewrote it. //////. When the solicitor finished reading her will, I was still numb from grief. But grief quickly made room for something colder: shock. Because sitting across the table, smiling as if we were about to share tea and biscuits, were the 2 people who had abandoned me when I was 13. My parents. I hadn't seen them in 15 years. And yet there they were, acting as if nothing had happened. My mother's smile looked strained, rehearsed, like she'd forgotten the lines halfway through. "Amelia, sweetheart," she said softly, her eyes glancing at the folder of documents. My father nodded, his voice falsely warm. "We're your family, darling. We only want what's best." And that's when Mr. Charles Harrington, Eleanor's lawyer, walked in, and their smiles froze like plaster statues. Let me take you back to when everything began. I grew up in a small flat on the edge of Canterbury, the kind with flaking wallpaper, a kettle that never stopped leaking, and neighbors who always left their radios too loud. My dad sold used cars. He'd smooth his tie and promised to bring home a shiny red convertible one day. My mum taught at a local primary school. Her laugh used to fill the kitchen while she marked essays with a chipped mug of chamomile tea. We didn't have much, but we had rituals. Friday pizza nights with an old DVD, summer picnics by the River Stour, Christmas mornings where we'd burn the pancakes and laugh anyway. I was their shadow. Their only child. Their world, or so I believed. But even back then, there were cracks. My father started coming home late, smelling of cheap whiskey and regret. My mother's laughter dimmed. I'd hear their muffled arguments through the thin walls, words like debt, creditors, overdue. I was 13 when it all fell apart. ////. One cold autumn morning, I woke to silence. The kind of silence that feels like the world's been emptied out. Their bedroom was bare, drawers open, wardrobe empty, no note on the table, until I found it. A single sheet of paper, folded twice. "Amelia, we can't do this anymore. Aunt Eleanor will take care of you. We're sorry." 16 words. 16 words that broke the rest of me. I sat on the couch for hours, waiting for a phone call, for anything. But none came. ////. By the 3rd day, I was out of food. I'd been living on dry cereal and hope. When the landlord came banging for rent, I lied, said my parents were just away for the weekend. But he didn't believe me. I was terrified he'd call the authorities, that I'd be dragged somewhere strange. On the 4th day, hunger and fear won. I went to school and told my counselor. That's how Miss Harper, the social worker, entered my story. Her voice was calm, her coat smelled like rain and lavender. She made a few calls, and a few hours later, Eleanor Whitmore, my father's older sister, arrived. Eleanor was nothing like the parents I'd known. Tall, silver-haired, composed, every inch of her crisp navy coat ironed to perfection. "Pack what matters," she said. Not unkindly, but firmly. I stuffed a duffel bag with clothes, my worn copy of The Secret Garden, and a photograph of my parents and me at the seaside, their smiles frozen in a memory I couldn't trust anymore. /////. The drive to her home in Bath Hill was quiet. Her car hummed softly, and I stared out at the grey clouds rolling over the Kent countryside. I didn't know whether to feel grateful or terrified. Her house. I still remember that first glimpse. A sprawling craftsman home, amber lights glowing behind stained glass windows, a view over the rolling hills like something from a dream. "Breakfast is at 7, she said on the first morning. No shoes in the sitting room. Homework done before supper. It wasn't cruel, just structured. Too structured for a broken child like me. I rebelled. Left dishes in the sink. Skipped piano lessons. Slammed doors. I half hoped she'd give up and send me away. But she didn't. When I overslept, she simply closed the kitchen door. When I failed a test, she hired a tutor. When I cried in frustration, she quietly left a cup of cocoa on my desk. She wasn't soft, but she was constant. And for a child abandoned, constancy is everything. /////. One night, I found her in the garden, trimming roses under the moonlight. She handed me one, its scent delicate, its stem sharp. "You're tougher than you think, Amelia," she said. And for the first time, I believed her. Eleanor built Whitmore and Bloom interiors from nothing, one shop on Canterbury High Street, into a regional brand known for sustainable home design. She demanded excellence, not perfection. "You're not here to blend in," she'd tell me. "You're here to stand out." At 15, she enrolled me in Heiress Academy, a private school full of polished shoes and expensive perfume. I didn't belong. My blazer was second-hand, my backpack patched. But Eleanor refused to let me shrink. "Work harder than anyone else," she said. "Make them remember your mind, not your clothes." I studied late, bleary-eyed under a desk lamp. And when I made the honor roll, she smiled, the smallest smile, but it meant everything. /////. I got a scholarship to the University of Kent to study business. I wanted to study art, but Eleanor pushed me towards something practical. We argued, loudly. She called art a hobby, I called business solace. Then one evening, she told me something that stopped me cold. "Your father," she said quietly, "had a gift for numbers. But no one guided him. He turned that gift into gambling. I won't let you repeat his story." That night, I realized she wasn't controlling me, she was protecting me. So I compromised. I majored in business, minored in design. And somehow, I found a way to weave both worlds together. Summers, I interned at Whitmore and Bloom, learning to negotiate with suppliers, manage marketing campaigns, and recognize the difference between oak and ash by touch. She treated me like an apprentice, not a child. By graduation, she trusted me with real work. "You've earned it," she said when she made me marketing director. Her handshake was firm, her eyes warm. ////. 2 years later, she got sick. Pancreatic cancer. The cruel kind that doesn't bargain. She worked through the pain, always saying, "There's still so much to do." I became her caretaker, her schedule, her meals, her comfort. Late at night, when the house was silent, I'd hear her whisper prayers she never said aloud. One evening, she reached for my hand and said softly, "You're my legacy, Amelia. Don't let anyone take that from you." When she passed, the house felt hollow. Every echo of her footsteps haunted me. I stayed in her study for days, sorting papers I couldn't bear to read. Until one morning, I received a letter from Charles Harrington, her solicitor. The will reading. /////. I walked into the office, expecting quiet. Instead, I walked straight into my past. My parents, older, paler, their eyes greedy and desperate. "Amelia," my mother breathed, "you've grown so much." My father reached for my hand. I didn't take it. Charles began to read. Eleanor had left everything to me, the mansion, the business, the assets. My parents froze, then recovered with saccharine smiles. "This is quite a lot for someone your age," my mother said, resting her hand over mine. "As your parents, we can guide you." Her touch felt like a stranger's. Cold. Sticky with pretense. My father added, "Legally speaking, Eleanor only had temporary custody. We're still her guardians." And that's when I felt it, that old, familiar ache, the one from years ago when they'd walked out the door. The child in me wanted to scream, "Please tell me this isn't happening again." But the woman I'd become, she sat still. Waiting. Charles's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "There seems to be a misunderstanding," he said, sliding a folder forward. "Eleanor Whitmore legally adopted Amelia Grant when she was 16. She has been her daughter, in every sense, for more than a decade." I blinked. My world tilted. "Adopted?" I whispered. He nodded gently. "She wanted to protect you, permanently." The sound of paper rustling was louder than breathing. My father's eyes widened, panic disguised as rage. "We never agreed to that. Those papers are fake." Charles didn't move. Mrs. Whitmore anticipated that reaction. "She hired investigators. They tracked you both after you left Amelia. Gambling in Bristol. You signed away your parental rights, for £15,000. The air drained from the room. He turned to me, his tone softening. "She wanted you to know the truth, not to hurt you, but to set you free." And then he handed me the letter. Eleanor's handwriting, graceful, confident, filled the page. "My dearest Amelia, if you're reading this, your parents have come for your inheritance. They once tried to sell your future, but I refused to let them. You were never a burden, you were the beginning. Be brave, my love. Stand tall when the past comes knocking." My lips trembled. My heartbeat drowned the room. I whispered, "She didn't just save me, she chose me." My mother's tears weren't grief, they were panic. My father muttered curses under his breath. That's when it hit me, Eleanor hadn't just been my guardian. She had been my mother all along. The mother who stayed. The mother who fought. The mother who never once looked away. I finally looked up, voice steady, eyes burning. "You don't get to walk back into a story you chose to leave, ////." Charles cleared his throat. "For the record, any legal challenge will trigger the clause transferring the entire estate to the Whitmore Foundation for Abandoned Children. They would receive nothing." Silence. Then fury. My father stormed out. My mother followed, crying, whispering, "You'll regret this. ///." That night, they showed up at the mansion. Banging on the door. Shouting my name. I let them in, not out of love, but closure. "We were sick," my mother cried. "Depression, addiction. We thought Eleanor could do better." I shook my head. "You knew where I was. For 15 years. You called social services, demanded money, but you never came." My father's voice rose. "She stole you. That house, that company, it's our family's legacy." I stepped closer, calm but cold. "Eleanor built this with her own hands. You built excuses." Outside, blue lights flickered. Security. Charles had prepared for this. "Leave," I said quietly. "Or the police will make you." They left. My mother's parting words hung in the night air. "You'll regret this, Amelia." // Weeks passed. The mansion no longer echoed with ghosts. I spent nights in the study, reading Eleanor's journals. In a locked drawer, I found a box, my old school reports, photos, and a note in her sharp handwriting. "Amelia, I love you not because I had to, but because you are you. I adopted you to make you mine, not to take you from anyone. Be strong. Mum." That word, Mum, broke me open. I wept until dawn. I filed for a restraining order. Charles handled everything. My parents tried one last attack, a letter to the Canterbury Chronicle, filled with lies about Eleanor, but the editor, her old friend, refused to print it. They disappeared back to Bristol, their silence louder than any apology. / I poured my grief into work. Whitmore and Bloom thrived. I launched an online store, something Eleanor had always resisted, and opened a branch in Oxford. The team said they saw her spirit in me, her precision, her heart. I smiled, because that's all I ever wanted. But her true legacy was never just the business. It was people. So I founded the Eleanor Whitmore Foundation, a charity for abandoned children. We offered therapy, scholarships, mentorship, everything I once needed. Mrs. Aurora, the housekeeper who'd worked with Eleanor for 30 years, became my quiet anchor. She'd bring tea and tell me stories of Eleanor staying up all night, learning accounting from borrowed books. Of how she'd wept with fear before I arrived, terrified she wouldn't be enough. Charles, now my godfather, joined us for Sunday suppers. He'd raise his glass and say, "Eleanor would be proud." And for the first time, I believed it. / A few months ago, I received a letter from my mother. No demands. Just regret. I haven't opened it. It sits in my desk drawer, waiting for a day when I'm ready, but not yet. Maybe someday. Last weekend, I visited her grave. The stone was simple, grey marble, surrounded by the roses she once trimmed beneath the moonlight. The engraving read, "Eleanor Whitmore, Mother. Mentor. Miracle." I laid down a single dahlia, her favorite, and felt the chill of early autumn settle around me. "I did it, Mum," I whispered. "The business is growing. The foundation's alive. And I'm okay." The wind stirred gently, carrying the faintest scent of roses. For a moment, I could almost hear her voice again. "You're tougher than you think, Amelia." I smiled through tears. "You were right. I am." The sun began to dip behind the hills, bathing the graveyard in amber light. And in that golden silence, I realized something, the kind of truth that lives deeper than blood. Family isn't just who brings you into this world, it's who stands beside you when the world falls apart. I turned back toward the gates of Bath Hill Estate, feeling the weight of her love still holding me upright. For the first time, I didn't feel like an orphan. I felt like a legacy. / Thank you for listening to my story. It means the world to share it with you. If it moved you, please give this video a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps me keep telling stories like this one. Stay strong and I'll see you in the next one.